Hey, what's going on, guys? Nick here with Seku Technologies, and I'd like to welcome you to your third JavaScript and jQuery tutorial. Today, what we're going to be talking about is writing our first script. That's right, each and every one of you finally gets the opportunity to become a programmer. All of the things that you have heard in the first two videos, we're actually going to be writing out a little JavaScript finally, and y'all can stop listening to my voice. I want you to think back to the last video on objects, methods, and events. Remember that these are nothing more than real-life tools that we as humans have the capability to interact with. However, it becomes important for us to translate these particular things into a programmatical sense in which our computer can understand. And that's going to be the meat and the girth of what we learned about today. We're going to be taking these real-world objects, methods, and events, and we're going to present them in such a way that the computer can understand. It's going to follow a schematic, and then it's going to be able to complete a specific task. The task that we're going to try to get our computer to complete today is have it give us a general greeting based on the time of day that it is wherever you are. So it's going to look at the date, it's going to also look at the time, and depending on whether or not it's the evening or the morning, it's going to say good evening, good morning, or good afternoon if it's right after lunch wherever you are. But before we get to that point, there's going to be three things that we specifically need. Thing number one is our good old trusty text editor. If you remember back to the first class, I had everybody download Sublime Text. I'm not going to use that anymore. I actually found a better text editor. Now, if you've been grandfathered into the way of using Sublime Text or Notepad++ whenever you write out your code, go on ahead and do it. However, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be using Brackets. It has a lot of cool features. It has a lot of cool tools. I just feel comfortable using it. I feel like my fingers are floating whenever I type out the programs. I don't know. I'm weird like that. However, for y'all, feel free to use any text editor that you want to. If you would like to use Brackets, go on ahead and pause the video, get Brackets downloaded, and start up the video once again, and we'll continue. Second thing, we're finally, like I said, going to learn how to write that JavaScript. However, we're also going to learn how JavaScript integrates with HTML and CSS documents. This is going to be a very important concept. A tad bit more about JavaScript. We write it in the same exact format as we do HTML, CSS, and most other programming languages. It all encompasses plain text, meaning that there is no way for you to be able to type. Well, you could type out code in rich text, meaning that you'll be typing it in programs such as Microsoft Word. However, there'll be compatibility issues and your text editor might not be able to run the code. So all of your JavaScript is going to be ran as plain text. You do not need any new tools whatsoever to write out a script. As I just mentioned, I know y'all are probably tired of hearing my voice, so without further ado, let's go on ahead and get started on our first project. So let's go on ahead and pop open our text editor. And your screen should look like mine. If your screen doesn't look like mine, do not fret. We are all going to be starting from the same point. The first thing that we're going to want to do is click on File and click New so we can get a new document on our screen. At the moment, our text editor doesn't know what type of document this is. It can't read it as an HTML document. It can't read it as a Python document. It can't read it as a JavaScript document. We're going to need to save this document before we do any coding as the type of document that we're going to be writing our code in. So we're going to go back to File. We're going to go to Save As. And we're going to name our document Script 1. Or you can name it anything you want to. So if you want to call it My First Script, go ahead. The most important thing about this is going to be the file type. So we're going to want to be sure that we have the name of our file, .js. Okay. Now our text editor recognizes our script as a JavaScript document, which is great. Now it's time for us to start writing our code. I'm gonna warn you, some of the concepts that I type out right now, some of you might have never seen them before. However, I promise to explain everything. However, within that, I'm gonna explain the easiest concepts first on down to the more difficult ones. So here we go. The first thing that we're gonna type is var, V-A-R, and this stands for variable. We are creating a variable that's going to act as an object that's called today. So the name of our variable is today. And we're going to say equals new date. Okay. The next line of code that we're going to write, congratulations, y'all just wrote y'all's first line of code. It looks great. I can't see it right now, but I'm teaching you. And if I'm teaching you, y'all are going to be great. Next line of code is going to be another variable. And the name of this variable is going to be called get hours. Okay. What I really want you to do right now is just get used to typing out the programming language. Get used to typing, you know, just kind of get your fingers a bit more comfortable with the keyboard and how it's kind of going to work. Like I said, I'm going to explain all of these lines of code later on within the video and videos that come after this. Okay. So var get hours equals today dot get hours. Uh-oh, didn't recognize it. That should turn green for everybody. Today dot get, uh-oh, having some technical difficulties right now. There we go. Var get hours equals today dot get hours. You might not know what that means, but it's pretty cool what it does. The last variable that we're going to type out is going to be called greeting, and this is going to be the variable that provides us with our greeting depending on the time of day that it is. Remember, our whole goal is to get our computer to give us a greeting that's based on the time of day. So if it's 7 o'clock, I want it to say good evening. If it's the morning time, I want it to say good morning. And if it's the afternoon, I want it to say good afternoon. So now that we have our variables, it's time for us to integrate a little bit of logic so the computer can guess what time it is and complete a specific task based off of that time. So we're going to type out if get hours is greater than 18, open brackets, we're going to say greeting equals good evening. Okay? And it kind of makes sense, right? If the hours of the day is past the 18th hour, then I want the computer to greet me with good evening. Makes perfect sense. Else if get hours is greater than 12, what do you think it's gonna say? I know I can't hear you guys, but it's gonna say good afternoon. So greeting equals good afternoon. Okay? Last but not least, we need to implement the morning hours. So once again, we're going to have another if statement. These are called statements. Else if get hours is greater than 0, then we want our greeting to say good morning. And don't forget the semicolons at the end. Sorry about that. Semicolons mean that you are finished with a particular statement that's where you want it to stop. That is that final statement. And last but not least, we're going to have else. Greeting equals welcome. And the reason I wrote that last else statement was just in the event that something's going on inside of your computer in which the programming logic can't pick up that the hours is past the 18th hour, or it's past the 12th hour, or past the 12 o'clock hour. So just in case, if it can't hit any of these, then all else, the greeting is just going to say welcome. Okay? So once again, now we have to have our web browser present us with that actual greeting, right? So there's two ways that we can do this, and I'm gonna write both ways. The first way that we're gonna do it is by invoking an alert method. All right? And within that alert method, now we've created our variable that has greeting, and that greeting is equal to one of these parameters. So either our greeting is gonna say good evening, it's gonna say good afternoon, or it's gonna say good morning or welcome. However, in this case, all we have to do is put in our variable. Now we don't have to type that out 3 specific times. And we're also going to enter in document.write, open parentheses, greeting. And once again, we have to finish up with a semicolon. Congratulations, all of you all have written your first program. Whoop-de-doo. Y'all are making me so happy right now. I feel like a proud mother, even though I'd be a father, but you guys are great. I'm gonna keep going. So let's go on ahead and save that document. That's always important that we save that document. But now, how do we actually get this document to run? How do we get it to work? I'm going to jump back over to our PowerPoint. We need to find a way to link this JavaScript file to an HTML page. Now that we have our JavaScript written, we need a way to link it up. We use the HTML script element to tell the browser it is coming across a particular script. The source attribute is what tells people where the JavaScript file is stored. The source code is not amended at all, meaning whenever we write in our JavaScript into the HTML, it's not going to mess it up in any type of way. And that's where that plain text functionality really comes into play. Okay? So let's go back. You might be thinking, well, Nick, right now, I don't have an HTML document. I mean, I have all of this JavaScript right here. It has all of this logic, but I just want to see it run, man. I just want to get it to run. Well, let's go to File. And now we're going to have to create a new document, a new HTML document. Everybody should know how to write out HTML, so we're just going to make a simple one in this case. Oh, forgot to save it. So I'm going to say File, Save As, HTML script .html. No, I don't want to save it there. I'm going to save it in my documents. And all of these files are going to be available on my website. I'm going to type out the web link at the end, so feel free to go in and get some practice time and make sure you really fundamentally understand these concepts. Those are going to be really important before any type of programming that we continue to do throughout this video. Okay, so my doc type is HTML. Have my HTML tag. Let me write in my head tag. My title. And and we'll call this HTML JavaScript. And now it's time for our body tags. Okay. So within our body tag, let's just put a little bit of, I don't know, let's put a little bit of paragraph text. That's arbitrary. And let's have it say, welcome to our first website. Yay. Let's save it. And now let's run it to see what it looks like. So to run files, you're going to come to the right side, and there's going to be this little lightning bolt looking thing over here in the top right hand corner. We're going to click on that. It's going to say, hey, welcome to live preview. We are going to say okay. And it should open up one of our web browsers and display that code. The live preview is really cool because as we type out and change our code within brackets, it automatically updates it. Unable to load live preview page. That's not good. Let's try it one more time. But as I was saying, the good part about it is that there we go. As I change information within my code, it's gonna automatically update within my website. So now I'm not having to X out a bunch of times. I can dynamically type out my content and I can see a live preview of it as it updates, which is really cool. So you might be taking a look at this. I'm just gonna put up 2 screens at the moment. In fact, no, I'll keep up 1 screen. You might be taking a look at this and saying, well, Nick, I can't see any of the JavaScript. It's supposed to give me a greeting. I don't see any type of greeting at all. Well, that's because we haven't created that linkage between our HTML document and our JavaScript. So remember, the way we do this is within a script element. And typically our script elements come at the bottom of our body tags. So I type out script, and now I need a source. Where is the source document for my JavaScript? It recognizes it as JavaScript, but now it needs to find a particular place for it. So I type out src, and now we go through and we find that document. And the name of our document was script1.js. I close it. And now, as you can see, if you go on ahead and open back up your web browser, you should see that it picked up the evening time. It generated my alert, which is great. And now after I click the OK button, my content should update with good evening, as can be seen right here. Pretty cool, huh? So let's try that one more time. As a matter of fact, let's go back to our JavaScript file. And now in here, let's have it as a header. So let's make this greeting a little bit bigger because right now it just looks like general paragraph text. So within our document.write statement, I come in and I write a quote. And within that quote, I type out a little bit of HTML. Let's do H2. Let's not have it too big. Type out a space, and then I put a plus. And then on the other side of greeting, I type out another space, another plus, and now we're going to close our H2 tags. I save it once again. Okay. Now, if I jump back over into my HTML script, my HTML file, and I click on this lightning bolt again for everything to update. Okay, so it looks good so far. I have my alert. and now good evening is bigger. This is a key way in which JavaScript is able to integrate within our HTML. It acts as if it's HTML, however, it stops what it's doing, it picks up that JavaScript, completes that particular script, and then it continues on if we were to have anything else within our HTML. Now, is this the only way that we can invoke HTML within our JavaScript? JavaScript within our HTML? And the answer is no. What if we want to place the JavaScript directly into our HTML without referencing a particular document? We can also do that too. I don't want you all to get into the habit of doing that, but it can be done. Let's figure out how to do it. So within our JavaScript document, within our HTML document, we're going to erase this source, which created that connection to our JavaScript file, to the point in which we just have two script elements. In between those script elements, HTML is going to think, hey man, I'm expecting some type of JavaScript code to come within here. So within those two tags, let's go on ahead and type document.write, and in between it, let's have good evening. Okay. And also in there, let's go on ahead and put in an alert. Let's type out an alert as well, an alert method. Say alert, and in that alert we can say, what's up? Now, I click the save button, and when I save it, what do you guys expect to happen? If I go back to Google Chrome, as you can see, I have my alert that says, what's up? And once again, I have good evening. Now, the thing about this is that there's no logic in it for it to be able to pick up what time of day it is. Remember, in our JavaScript file, we had all of that code in there in which the computer was able to pick up the time of day and then give us our greeting. In this case, we don't have that. We're just simply saying, hey, I want you to write good evening, and I also want you to pop an alert on my screen that says what's up. If I wanted to, I'm sure all of y'all are wondering this, if I wanted to, I could take all of this code, I could copy it, and I could paste it within my script tags. And you can do that. However, that is not best practice. It starts to get messy. It starts to get really hard to read. Look at that. That's not good at all. Will it work? Absolutely, it will work. I save it. It says good evening. I click OK, and then I have good evening once again. But this isn't best practice. It's always going to be best practice for you to have your own JavaScript file and then just reference it within your HTML document. Okay? So back to our PowerPoint. Some of you all might be wondering, dude, what the heck did we just do? Well, you just used your first object and your first method. If you look back within that document.write, the document is the overall object. Okay? It is the object that we are referencing within our JavaScript. It represents the entire web page. All web browsers implement this particular object. So if I had an object called car, within that car, I could expect to have, once again, steering wheel. I could have tires. I could have windshield wipers. I could have horn. I can have left signal or right signal. All of these are things that have to do with the object of a car. It's the same exact thing with coding. We typed out the document object, and then we integrated what's called a method, specifically the write method. And all it did was allow the new content to be written into the page where the script element was. It's not going to run outside of the script element. So if I were to have this document.write outside of my script element, which is right here, it's not going to write. It's not even going to work. So if I type in document.write, it's going to say, hey man, what the heck are you doing? This just looks like arbitrary text. I'm not recognizing this as JavaScript. All JavaScript, once again, has to be written within the script tags. Okay? So that is how it's always going to be. You're always going to have a particular object. That object is going to invoke methods, and then those methods are going to have what's called parameters. Okay? And all a parameter is just information that is needed to make a method work. Some methods need further information. In this case, the alert method and also the write method needed something to write. If we didn't put a parameter within the write method or the alert method, then it wasn't going to know what to alert to the user. It wasn't going to know what to alert to the page within the document, that is. As a means of always accessing methods that are located within objects, you have what's called a member operator, aka a period. And that period does nothing more than allows the user to access all of the methods that are available within a particular object. Remember, all objects have multiple methods. However, methods only have one object. Okay? So the format is always going to be object.method. Even if that method doesn't belong to a particular object, well, in this case, all methods belong to objects, but sometimes sometimes you won't have to type them out, which was the case with the alert method. This is what's called a system method. It belongs to hard-coded JavaScript functionality. There is no way to manipulate this. It is concrete. In that case, we didn't have to write out a particular object. We just typed out the method, which was called alert, and then its parameter. It's not always going to be like that, but the format will always be object.method. And then within that method, you're going to have to pass in a parameter. In this case, it was good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. So that pretty much completes this particular class. As always, you have homework. I want you guys to get out and go practice. Specifically, what I want you to do is create an HTML page that has a script that says your name after loading the page. You can either create a separate JavaScript file and refer to it, or you can write the JavaScript directly into your HTML file. But remember, that's not best practice, and I don't really want you to do it that way. If you want to be the best programmer you can be, practice what you preach and go on ahead and create a brand new JavaScript file. I wish I could check you all's work. However, if you want me to take a look over some of your programming, feel free to go to our forum, which is located at www.sekutech.com/forums. And also in there, if you go to the particular subject matter, we're going to have all of the documents and we're going to have all of the videos available to you for download for you to use. So before each class, typically I'm going to have all of the files that we're going to be using for that project each day ready for you all to download and ready for you all to use. So if y'all have questions, let me know. Outside of that, that's all I've got today. You all have been great. See you guys in the next video.